What the hell are you doing? Who said you could touch my daughter? At the center of it all stood Maya Williams, kneeling on the floor with a tiny wand of soap bubbles in her hand. In front of her, little Emily Beckett was sitting, no longer screaming, no longer panicking, but smiling, laughing even. For the first time in months, then like a sudden storm, Richard Beckett marched through the crowd. His voice thundered again, "You don't ever touch my daughter." Before Maya could rise or explain, his hand came down, slap cracking sharply across her face. The room gasped, a glass dropped and shattered. Silence, thick and electric, settled over the space. Maya stumbled back, stunned, her hand on her cheek. Her breath caught, not from the pain, but the humiliation. Her eyes locked on Beckett's cold, unreadable, angry. Then came the cry, "Daddy." It was shrill, raw, human. Everyone turned. Emily, her tiny fists clenched, screamed louder, "Don't hurt her. Don't send her away." Beckett froze mid-motion. His daughter had spoken. Not whimpered, not mumbled, spoken. The same child who hadn't said a full sentence in nearly a year. Emily rushed toward Maya, wrapping herself around her waist, sobbing into her apron. Maya makes the bubbles. I like her, please. Maya stood frozen, unsure what to do. Her heart pounded in her ears. Beckett, momentarily disarmed, stared at his daughter in disbelief. Then, as if reflex returned faster than reason, he yanked Emily into his arms. She kicked and screamed, "No, no, Daddy, she's nice. I want Maya." The crowd watched, some speechless, others murmuring. "You're fired," Beckett said to Maya, low and firm. "Get your things now." Maya said nothing. Her voice had vanished, swallowed by years of learning when to speak and when to disappear. She walked away. The estate was silent long after the party had ended. The staff cleaned up quickly, eyes lowered. No one mentioned what had happened. In the nursery upstairs, Emily's sobs echoed long past midnight. "She won't stop," the nanny whispered, clutching a warm compress to her temple. "She's never reacted like this. Not even when her mother died." Beckett stood near the window, arms crossed, his jaw tight. "Just give her melatonin or she's not tired, Mr. Beckett." The nanny snapped, "She's hurting emotionally and, quite frankly, so am I." Emily continued crying, curled in a blanket, clutching the wand Maya had left behind. "Bubbles," she whispered between sobs. "I want Maya." By morning, the house was brittle with tension. Beckett hadn't slept. He sat in his study, the wand resting on his desk like some quiet accusation. The child psychologist hadn't called back. The new therapist he tried to schedule wouldn't be available for a week. He opened his phone, paused, then reluctantly called the estate's HR manager. "Get me her number. Maya Williams." When Maya picked up the phone that afternoon, she was sitting on a park bench in the Bronx, a small suitcase at her feet. Her cheeks still ached. She hadn't planned to return, not to that house, not to that world. "Miss Williams," said a voice she recognized instantly, controlled, powerful. "This is Richard Beckett." Maya didn't reply. "I may have overreacted last night." Still silence. "My daughter hasn't spoken like that in over a year." "You got through to her somehow." "She hasn't eaten, hasn't slept. She just keeps asking for you." "I'm not a miracle, Mr. Beckett," Maya said quietly. "I'm not even qualified for what you clearly want." "You made that perfectly clear." He exhaled. "Perhaps, but I'm asking now. Not as an employer. As a father." Maya hesitated. She wanted to hang up. She wanted to scream. She wanted to protect her own dignity. "I'll think about it," she said. Finally. That night, she turned off her phone. She sat in her cousin's apartment and stared at the wall, wondering what kind of man hit someone in front of a room full of people, and what kind of child found the strength to scream in defense of a stranger. The next morning, her phone buzzed, a voicemail. It was soft, static-filled. Then, a familiar shaky voice. "Hi, Maya. It's Emily. I miss you. Please come back. I want more bubbles. Maya listened to it twice, 3 times. Then she closed her eyes and wept, not from pain, not from anger, but because for the first time in a long time, she felt seen, needed, and something inside her whispered, maybe this story isn't over yet. The voicemail played again on a loop in Maya's mind as she sat on the subway, hands folded tightly in her lap. Emily's voice, soft, trembling, real, had burrowed into the quiet corners of her heart and refused to leave. I want more bubbles. It wasn't just the words. It was the way she'd said them. That pause before Maya. The fragile breath between miss you and please. It wasn't manipulation. It wasn't scripted. It was a child, an isolated, grieving child calling out. By the time the train reached 59th Street, Maya had already made her decision. She wouldn't return for the man, not for the paycheck, not for the job. She would go back for Emily, and she would set boundaries this time. She stepped off the train and dialed the number Richard Beckett had used. A female assistant picked up, efficient and clipped. I'll let Mr. Beckett know you're calling back, the voice said. Please hold. 9 seconds later, Beckett's voice came on the line, lower than usual, less clipped. Maya, I'm not coming back as a maid, she said before he could say anything. If I return, it's for Emily and only her. A pause, then, understood. I want a clear role, defined hours. Respect. You'll have all of it, he said. Whatever you need. Maya hesitated. And no more outbursts. Another pause, longer this time. That won't happen again. She didn't fully believe him, but she believed in Emily. I'll be there this evening. When she arrived at the Beckett estate just past 6, the sun was casting long golden stripes across the stone driveway. Luther, the old driver, was already waiting at the gate. Told you she'd call you back, he said with a quiet grin as he opened the door. Maya gave him a faint smile. I'm only here for the girl. Same reason I stayed as long as I did, Luther said, tipping his cap. Some people just call something out of you. Huh? Inside, the house was quieter than she remembered. No music, no bustle. The grand foyer, once a stage of humiliation, now felt heavy with unspoken apologies. Mrs. Langford, the head housekeeper, greeted Maya stiffly. Mr. Beckett is in his study. Emily is upstairs. I've left a snack for her. Has she eaten? She only nibbled the crackers. The woman's face softened slightly. She hasn't said another word since last night. Only asked if the bubble lady was coming back. Maya nodded once and went straight upstairs. Emily's room was dim, the curtains drawn. The girl sat on the floor, her arms wrapped around a faded stuffed rabbit, the one Maya had left now lying beside her on the carpet. Hey, Maya said gently from the doorway. Emily's head jerked up. Maya stepped inside slowly, kneeling just far enough to not seem overwhelming. You called me, Emily blinked, then nodded. She scooted forward on her knees and reached out, her small fingers wrapping around Maya's. I missed you, she whispered. Maya exhaled, the tension of the day easing slightly. She pulled a small bottle from her coat pocket, brought the bubbles. A flicker of a smile. Then, for the next 10 minutes, the room filled with shimmering orbs floating through golden slivers of dusklight. Emily chased them with quiet delight, her hands waving, her giggle returning softly like a song long buried. Maya felt something loosen in her chest. When Emily finally curled up beside her on the floor and rested her head on Maya's lap, Maya stroked her hair and whispered, I'm not going anywhere tonight, okay? Emily nodded sleepily. Stay forever. Downstairs, Richard Beckett watched them through the baby monitor screen in his office. The live feed showed Maya and his daughter wrapped in a quiet peace that no amount of money had ever been able to buy. He stared at the image for a long time, then turned off the screen and rubbed his eyes. Later that evening, he asked to see Maya. She came into the study with measured steps, dressed simply but with a quiet confidence that hadn't been there before. I owe you an apology, he said, rising. You do? What happened? It was inexcusable. Yes, it was. He looked momentarily taken aback by her bluntness, but then nodded. I've hired a legal consultant to update your employment contract. You'll have full autonomy regarding Emily's care. I've also doubled your pay. It's still probably not enough. I'm not here for a raise, Maya said quietly. I know. That's why I trust you. Maya narrowed her eyes slightly. You don't even know me. Beckett looked down at his hands. No. And that counts for more than anything I could measure. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Finally, Maya said, I want access to her records. Medical, therapy, school, all of it. Done, and I need space, independence. No interference from household staff. You'll have your own wing. Maya nodded. Then we'll see where this goes. As she turned to leave, Beckett asked, Why did you really come back? She paused at the door. Because she spoke, Maya said. And no child fights for someone unless they feel safe. Oh, that night as Emily slept peacefully for the first time in days, Maya sat near her bed with a notepad, jotting down observations, patterns, things that might help. She wasn't sure what she was stepping into. But one thing was clear. She had been called for something more than dusting shelves. She had been called to see a child when no one else would. And somehow, she was ready. It was barely 6 o'clock in the morning when Maya slipped into the kitchen. Hair still damp from a quick shower, notebook in hand. The staff wouldn't start arriving for another hour, but Maya preferred the silence when the clatter of silverware, the hum of vacuums, and the clicking of shoes on marble floors hadn't yet broken the stillness of the house. She poured herself a small cup of coffee, black, and leaned against the cool marble counter. On the page before her were scribbled notes from the night before, Emily's sleeping patterns, her aversion to harsh lighting, her tendency to flap her fingers when overwhelmed, and the soothing effect of gentle motion, bubbles, swinging lights, rhythmic humming. These weren't just observations. They were breadcrumbs. And Maya had learned long ago that sometimes the only way into a quiet world was by listening between the lines. As she sipped her coffee, the weight of the last 48 hours settled deeper into her chest. She hadn't yet spoken to her mother. The voicemail box was full again. Her mother's memory was fading more quickly now. Each call was a gamble. Some days Maya was baby girl. Some days she was that nurse with the soft voice. And sometimes, just silence. She closed her notebook and stood. She wasn't here to mourn the things she couldn't fix. Not today. By the time she reached Emily's wing, the morning sun was peeking through the sheer curtains. Maya gently knocked before entering. Emily was already awake, seated on the floor in her pajamas, carefully arranging colored cards in a circled blue, red, yellow, green. Then again, her rabbit lay beside her like a quiet guardian. Morning, Maya said softly. Emily didn't respond with words, but she looked up and gave a small nod. Her eyes, still sleepy, followed Maya as she crossed the room and knelt beside her. What's this? Maya asked, gesturing to the pattern. Safe colors? Emily murmured. Maya paused. It was the first unprompted sentence since the night of the party. Why safe? Blue as sky, green as trees, yellow as sun, red as stop. Maya smiled gently. I like that. She pulled out her own small pouch and retrieved the bubble wand. Want to start the day with these? Emily nodded eagerly as the bubbles danced around the room. Maya noticed how Emily's breathing evened out. How her shoulders relaxed. It was like watching a storm ebb into a tide pool. The world shrank to soft orbs and the giggles of a child who had learned to laugh again. Later that morning, Richard Beckett requested a meeting. Maya entered the study without hesitation, her chin held high. Emily's nurse is arriving today, Beckett said, setting down a document. And I've scheduled a specialist to assess her progress. Good, Maya replied. But I want to be involved in those decisions. Beckett nodded. Of course. I've also arranged for a sensory room to be set up here. Based on your notes. Maya tilted her head. My notes? The ones you left by the coffee maker, he said with a faint smirk. They're detailed. Impressive. Maya blinked, then softened. Thank you. It's for her, not for praise. I know, he said. That's why it works. Over the next weeks, the estate transformed. The sensory room became a haven: soft lights, textured walls, bubble machines, weighted blankets. Emily thrived, her words growing steadier, her laughter more frequent. Maya documented every milestone, every trigger, every joy. One afternoon, as bubbles floated through the room, Emily looked at Maya and said, "You're my friend." Maya's eyes welled up. "And you're mine," she whispered. Beckett watched from the doorway, silent, but his expression said what words couldn't. He was learning, too. Months passed, and the story of Maya and Emily spread. BUP stories captured their journey, turning a moment of conflict into a movement. Families reached out, therapists took note, and a foundation began to take shape. The Maya Williams Foundation launched with a simple mission: to see the unseen, to listen where silence reigned. Art therapy, bubble play, sensory tools, each a petal in a garden of trust. At the first event, Emily stood beside Maya, holding a painting of a bubble with a daisy inside. "We bloomed together," she said to the crowd. The room erupted in applause, and Maya knew this was only the beginning. A black housemaid named Maya gently connects with a nonverbal autistic girl, Emily, using bubbles and kindness, unaware the child's billionaire father is watching. After a painful confrontation and dismissal, Emily's emotional plea brings Maya back. Over time, Maya helps Emily find her voice through art and sensory therapy. What begins as a simple act of care transforms into a powerful foundation that supports autistic children and teaches a community that true justice blooms through empathy, presence, and love. BUP Stories.